Welcome back to our show, Empower Your Life. I'm your host, Cindy Marie. Our next guest, he is ready to empower, also to bring us a successful, extraordinary life. He's an inside life coach offering a holistic approach to empowerment. He has worked in a multiple positions across hospitality sector with his creative talents and transition now into coaching. I cannot wait for you to hear or listen to his inspiring story and more learnings into this episode. So, without further ado, may I welcome to you our next guest, Coach Donni Satu. Hi, Donni. Thank you so much for being part of the show. How are you?
Hi, Cindy. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm honored to be with you on this show of yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So, for those people who don't know who is Donni Satu, would you mind to share with us your journey, how everything started, like creative talents? I want you to tackle that. Especially, I come to know that you're a DJ as well. That's something interesting for people to know, and how you transition into coaching now. So, share with us.
I think I could serve you better by going right to the very beginning. Do you mind?
Sure. Of course, please.
On the very first day I was born, I was adopted by a 21-year-old young lady who is my mother today.
Wow.
And she was adopted herself by another lady.
Wow.
So I really grew up in I guess the first 5 years of my life with feminine energy around me. I didn't really have a father figure. I remember around when I was 5, my mother met a man from Australia who was coming to the Philippines, where I was born. And he was a nurseryman. And a nurseryman is people that grow plants. And he had like, he was growing tropical plants. That's why he was coming to the Philippines to buy seeds. And anyway, they met and fell in love. But it didn't seem like we were clicking. And we had a very rough sort of relationship, especially when we met. And we didn't get along. But you can imagine I was a very, very naughty boy. I was just running around. I was not disciplined at all. My mother was going to work, and my grandmother was really too old to run around after me. So I was just running wild. But I don't think he liked that. And I used to get a lot of strapping by belt from him to be disciplined. Anyway, he eventually took my mother to immigrate to Australia, left me in the Philippines until they were doing the paperwork for adoption. So I waited back home for about a year, and then I followed them. So I went on a plane when I was about 7 from the Philippines to Australia and immigrated there. And I can still remember that day. The relationship didn't really improve between us. I don't know if I was just in the way, really. I used to actually work in his nursery. Imagine when I was like 7 or 8 and working with him and in my days off, or like from school and after work, after school as well. So I didn't really have that childhood where I could just play. I mean, I did, but, I was expected to help a lot, which is, I thought it was a bit unfair. Anyway, so it became throughout that early years, it was really a lot about pleasing him and, walking on eggshells. Anyway, one day my mum went away for a couple of weeks to an interstate, and I was at home with him. And I remember that night before, I took $5 from the house and went outside and hid it underneath a sink outside so I can go to school and buy lunch with $5, right? Anyway, so we woke up that morning, had breakfast, and then I went out to go, to school was about 5 kilometers away. So I had to get on a bus and all of that. But anyway, I went around outside, picked up the $5. And as soon as I turned around, I saw him, and it was like, he grabbed me by the ears, took me back into the room, back into the house, threw me back into my room, and he said, take your clothes off. And I thought, okay, he's never said that before. And then he proceeded to take all my clothes from my wardrobe and start to take them outside and to his room, right? And so there was quite a few clothes there, so he needed a couple of trips. When he came back the second time, I didn't take my clothes off yet, and he goes, take your clothes off now. And so he went to grab the other second lot, and then when he left the room, I opened the window and just ran, right? So I'm about like 9 years old at this stage. And so I ran away from home and went to my friend's house, played with him all afternoon. His parents said, at nighttime, shouldn't you be going home? I explained the story. They took me back home. And we sat in the car whilst they drove me home. So I was outside the house in the car. His mother went inside, and I don't know how long it was. All I could see was she was coming back to the car with a couple of suitcases and said, he doesn't want you.
Oh, wow.
I said, oh, wow. Okay. I mean, anybody else would be like, I guess, wouldn't be happy about the situation, but I was actually like,
yes.
I didn't have to be with him. So, but that was, if you were to look back in your life, that was that turning point, a big turning point in my life, because I stayed with my friend's family for nearly a year until they couldn't look after me anymore. And then I was admitted by the state and lived in a couple of children's homes for the next 5 years. So I really, from my early teenage years right up until I'd say around 15 years of age, I lived in children's homes. It wasn't until my mother was able to leave him and start, looking after herself and getting a job, because she was relied on him for money, because she was working for him. So anyway, she was able to break away from him, and she lived on her own. By this stage, she had a child with him, so my little sister. And anyway, she was able to get me away and come back to live with her. So now I'm living back with my mum and a little sister and myself. And so that was the early part of my life. And so now I'm going, I'm obviously in high school, and I didn't really like school at all. And I dropped out, finished year 11. So I didn't finish my last year, and then went on to do a 5-year apprenticeship as a hairstylist. Right. And during that time, when I was, and we're talking about DJing, during that time I was a hairstylist. My boss at that time was having a birthday party, a surprise birthday party at somebody's house, and we all rocked up there. And then there was this DJ setup. It's like, oh, I've never seen this before. Turntables, he had vinyl, and then he proceeded to play the night, and everyone was just having such a great time. I was just so enthralled about this guy is just putting on music and making everybody dance. I said, I want to do that. And that was another turning point in my life, where it's like, I want to do that. So I started buying vinyl, and then started to do these mobile gigs, as weddings, parties, and anything that I could find, and finally got myself a job at the local nightclub. And which I spent like an apprenticeship really for the first 5 years, understanding about music, and the most important thing is really about reading the crowd, to understand, how I could play with the crowd, what music they like, and, just play around with it, go up and down. And so I did that, and I got so many gigs that I ended up leaving my job, my full-time job, and to become a full-time DJ. And so then and this was in the suburbs, and then I went on to the city, where then I started to DJ at the most notorious underground nightclubs you could ever find, which was like, imagine a guy from the suburbs just eyes wide open thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is just another world. You know, I was getting home at 10 a.m. in the morning. It was just crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
I learned a lot in that time about, you know, really about music and crowds, and obviously also about the artistic side of creating events. And and it was around about this time that I started reading spiritual and personal development books and going to seminars. And that opened up a whole new world for me. So this was something I was doing in the background all that time. I was just like, this is amazing. Anyway, so cut back now, then I moved to Bali around 2004 because I was offered a job at this beach club here.
Yeah, okay.
And I took on the role as a marketing and creative director for 8 years. And we built that beach club to world-class standard, where it was the events that actually propelled it to that level. It was just phenomenal, the events that we put in there. And that was, again, another, you know, turn in the road for me, which is just there's a lot of the creativity, and I was just so in my element. After I left there in Bali 2012, I moved to Bangkok for 3.5 years. And by the way, so I met my wife. She came to Bali, and I met her in Bali, and I asked her to live with me. So she moved from Russia, and then when we left Bali, we moved to Bangkok for 3.5 years. I became the global creative director for a company there, and we had our son in Bangkok. After 3.5 years there, that was one of the most stressful times in my life, just going into a corporate job, sitting down in an office, you know, air-conditioned office for 9 hours a day, and it was like coming from Bali city to the city to a metropolis like Bangkok, night and day. You know, I'm used to sunsets, the ocean, and seeing different people from all walks of life, and now suddenly I'm thrust into, you know, Bangkok. Beautiful, but very different. So after I left Bangkok, I moved to Mexico.
Wow!
Because I said, that's it, that's enough. So I moved to Mexico in light because a friend wanted to open a hotel and a beach club, and I said, this is me. I'm in the ocean. I'm going to do it. So I moved my whole family there, and it didn't work out because he actually didn't have the money at that time. So now I'm on the other side of the world. I'm using up all my savings and eating up into my credit card until one day I woke up and said, holy shit, I don't have any money. I'm on the other side of the world. This guy's not paying me. I need to go. And you know, I brought this tension home, and it was a rough time. And I had to leave and go to Vietnam to work. I had to get an entertainment director role for a company that was opening up a club in Hanoi. And I left my wife and son in Mexico because I said, I don't want to be dragging you around the world. I'll just earn the money and then send it back to you. And the company was not successful at all. So they weren't even paying me. So now I'm in the same boat. I'm not getting any money. I can't send any money home to them. And now I'm even more stressed. And I just felt that, you know, my wife and I were just slowly drifting apart. I moved to another area in Da Nang in the ocean in Vietnam, and worked for a development company who was opening up a beach club, and they paid me, but it was a toxic, you know, work environment, very much like in Bangkok. And I thought, oh my God, I can't get a break here. And to tell you the truth, Cindy, that was probably the lowest point in my life. It was so dark that I thought, I've heard about depression, but I don't really know what it is. But if what I'm feeling is depression, oh my gosh, this is just like I was thinking things that I would never even think in my life before. Like, what would anyone even miss me if I was here? I was so low. I had no prospects. My family wasn't with me. I was just, what have I got? Anyway, so it was a dark time for me. And so I went back home to Australia and started rebuilding myself. And from that, and this was around now about the start of 2018. So between 2018, I kept flying back and forth to Bali, thinking I miss Bali so much. It brought me, great memories, and I want to come back to live here. And I just kept coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the last time I came to Bali was February 2020 for a 2-month holiday. And you know what happened a few weeks after that?
That was the transition.
The world started locking down. So I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity to stay in Bali. So now 2 years and 2 months later, I'm still here for a 2-month holiday. I have 1.5 suitcases.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. But I'll give you the point. The turning point here was I'm sitting in a cafe in Australia, and something just emerged from me to say, buy a ticket to Bali. And I'm thinking, I just got back from Bali. Why am I buying a ticket to Bali again? So I went straight on to the airline, bought a ticket for the week after, and I was in Bali a week later. And now when I reflect back on it, I thought, oh my gosh, I was meant to be here. I was meant to be here, Cindy. And so, now when I look at it, how it's unfolded is that during my time here, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, you know what? Why don't you look into coaching? Coaching? I had all these assumptions about coaching, like Bali is the center of coaching in Asia. There are so many coaches here. It is crazy. So I thought, why would I anyway, so I didn't really know so much about it, but I had, he said, just give it a try. I said, okay. So I gave it a try. It was free 3-week webinar, and it blew me away, Cindy. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I cannot believe this is what it's about. And so I signed up, and let's go for that. Another turning point in my life.
Yeah.
It opened up a Pandora's box, Cindy. You don't understand. It was like now 20 to 25 years of personal development and spiritual development and books and seminars that I was interested in the background, I can actually bring to the forefront now.
Yeah.
Now, why did I tell you all of this? It's because what I've come to understand in coaching is that we are our biggest and most important case study.
I love it.
I can pull from my life experiences, and that's what makes me who I am today. And that's why every coach, because they have a life experience which makes me unique that nobody else has.
Yes.
That. And what I learned, doesn't even have to be blood. It could be anyone that you make it to be. And that happened right from the very beginning when I was born, all the way growing up, all the way being in a children's home. I had to create my own family, my own group. my own tribe, my own community. These are all the things that I can pull from. And, there's our strengths are forged in the fire of our despair. All of this creates who we are today if we're able to see it as an opportunity and a gift, not as traumatic experiences. Otherwise, we're just going to be caught up in the stories.
True.
So that was a long way around answering that question, but I hope that it gave it some context.
Well, definitely it does. I think it's very great you point out different turning points, especially I do love what you said, the last part of it, that we see it as an opportunity for us to grow, because I mean, I might not have the same childhood story as yours, but I also had a little bit, not traumatic, but a very memorable combination of negative plus the opportunity for me to expand and becoming who I am right now because of my childhood memory. And just like you, I took that as an opportunity. And of course, I forgave people all of those people I felt that made me feel pain. But of course, I forgive myself as well that I am young and I don't know what's happening. But now, we have the opportunity to see that, to create a place whereby whether you want to get stuck in there or you want to move forward and slowly becoming the best version of yourself. So I find it very grateful that you shared from the beginning up to now, because I think that's a very wonderful story for everyone to hear, that one person didn't come as who you are right now with, I would say, less challenges in life. Usually, you come with a very different ups and downs, and then now you are strong as who you were before, and of course you're wiser. So thank you for sharing your full story.
If I can just share something here, oftentimes I've asked myself throughout the latter part of my life, would I ever change anything? And I always said no, because I was meant to go through those experiences. I left out things like sexual abuse from babysitters, from my uncle, and all of these things. But there was something there that put that experience in front of me for me to be able to walk through it. And you said something before about forgiveness. Forgiveness is the key for you to be able to move forward. Because if you're not forgiving that, you're not accepting that this is part of your life experience. You're resisting that part of yourself. And so for me, all of those things, I accept it, I love it, I embrace it, and I thank it.
Yes, we thank it. So just to add on that, since you mentioned thank you, I have spoken with one of the clients, and she asked me, why would I need to say thank you for those people who made me feel hurt? And so, of course, I sit back and reflect, and I share that, of course, we thank them, because without them, we wouldn't know many things, like who we are as a being, what is right and wrong. We don't know how would it feel to become happy, and what is the difference between feeling hurt and feeling happy. So many things. And we still, again, good and bad, we can always look at it as opportunity, because it will mold us as who we are right now. So yeah, that's the thank you.
If you just the simple understanding or principle of, I am always a learner and everyone is my teacher.
Yes.
There's no judgment whether it's good or bad. It's just is. And whatever's happening right there is teaching me something about myself.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Moving to the next question that obviously you are great about it. We're talking about the mind, and you can talk back and have your story as an example, but we're talking now about mind. So who is really driving the mind, and how does it influence us in our success in life? The mind. So could you share with us?
Wow, that's such a deep rabbit hole. Depending on which school of thought you come from, like let's say the three principles, right? They have mind, consciousness, and thought. In the three principles, they regard mind, well, what they regard as mind, I call source, or some people call divine intelligence, or God, or Allah. Science calls it the quantum field. But I guess for this conversation, we can say, look, let's keep it simple: mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this instance, mind is that, let's say, that set of faculties responsible for our mental phenomena, like our thought, our imagination, our memories, our will, our sensation. So who is driving the mind? It's a combination. I can say that for the majority of it, I can say that I can assume that it's source that's driving the mind, and I'll get to that in a second. How does this influence our success in life? Well, look, our mind is either going to break us or make us.
Yes.
Right? So let's divide the mind in two. There's the conscious mind, which is the rationalizing and logical thinking. And then obviously the subconscious mind, right? Let's say that which is that reservoir of where your feelings and your thoughts and urges and memories, and which is basically all outside of your conscious awareness. You're following me, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
The subconscious has the controls of your life. Right? You know, when you sleep, it's your subconscious that's running everything, your heart beating and all the repairs that's happening in your body, it's breathing. You're not even conscious about that. It's all the subconscious. Now, the subconscious, right, is driven by your beliefs, your values, and your mental model of the world, basically. And so that then is where you operate from your beliefs about yourself and others, and the model of the world. So, you know, that's really what's driving everything. Now, let me go back to when I said about who's driving the mind, I said source. Now, it's worth noting here that thought and thinking is different.
Let's break it down, that one.
Okay, let's break it down. Can I ask you, do you know what thought is going to pop up in your mind in 2 hours' time?
No.
Do you know what thought's going to come into your awareness in 1 hour's time?
No.
What about in 1 minute's time?
No.
Right. Because you are not your thoughts, right? That field of awareness, watching the thoughts go by.
Yeah.
And those thoughts can be said, you know, some people say that it's coming from the subconscious, or some people comes and say that's, you know, a download from source. It's just thoughts coming in. Now, some thoughts are more productive and serves, you know, you more. Some are not, but these are just thoughts. Now, where do you come in? It's when you attach to a thought, and then now you start thinking, which is a doing thing, a verb. I'm starting to think about thought, And suddenly I'm ruminating about it, and so I'm playing with it, I'm breaking it apart, and looking at every angle, and then looking at, oh, this is not going to be. I'll give you an example. How many times have you had a really good idea come up, and suddenly an hour later, or maybe at the end of the day, you've thought about it and goes, oh, no, it's probably not going to be a good idea. Or, what will people think? Or, you start to now add your own thinking, values, beliefs, memories, and all of these programmings and conditioning, and you've attached it to this thought and basically killed the whole thought itself because of your thinking mind.
Interesting.
Right? So we don't have to attach ourselves to the thought. We can just allow them to come past, especially if they're not serving us.
Oh, of course.
Now, there's going to be some which is like, oh, that's a great idea. Where did that come from? It's like, stories about it being in the shower. Suddenly, boom.
Yeah.
I've come up with a great idea, right?
Yeah.
So it's those thoughts that doesn't serve us that we hold on to, and then we start to, pull it apart, and suddenly we're killing the whole thing. We're not in the moment anymore. We're in our own thinking brain. We're bringing all of this into the picture, whereas this thought was just an innocent thought, like a cloud that's coming past.
Yeah.
So it's worth noting that you are not your thoughts, and that it's our thinking that brings us now the pain and suffering.
That's incredible. So for us, of course, we are still in working in progress with all of this, but we are aware, right, how we can control that thought, and then like capturing whether it serves us or not. But I think for other people who are not in that position yet, like, this is a separate question, but following to what you just said, do you have like specific practice that nowadays people would like to take it as, can I practice like something easy, something easy that it won't impact my daily habits, but just like when I catch myself into that thinking where I can be trapped of sabotaging myself. So would you have any sort of practice in there that, okay, whenever you're feeling this, do this? Maybe slowly there will be in the beginning, there will be still resistance, but if you keep on practicing this, slowly then you'll realize that that's just a thought. You can take control of that. If it doesn't serve you, let it go.
Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness, when you strengthen that muscle of mindfulness, you become now more aware of the moment as it's happening. When we don't have that mindfulness, it's like we're caught in a raging river, which is just these thoughts. It's like, we're smashing into the side of the river, into rocks, into, trees, whatever's in the way. And we just like, we don't have any control at all. But mindfulness and awareness is being able to pull ourselves out of that raging river, sit on the bank, and just be in that present moment and say, I'm not those thoughts. So I'll give you an example. Everything, our experiences, our habits, if you look at it from the brain structure, it's all just neural pathways that's been created over time, right? And the more you do something, you strengthen this neural pathway. So you have a trigger, whatever that trigger is, and everybody's got their own trigger. And what happens is the default is now this behavior which is a neural pathway that either sabotages you, right? You might have a trigger and then you just automatically be angry, or you might have a trigger and you automatically pick up a cigarette, or you become stressed, you pick up a cigarette, or whatever that trigger is. There's going to be a default behavior.
Yeah.
Right? So now, mindfulness, practicing and strengthening your awareness means you have a trigger, but before it becomes the default behavior, you stop it in the middle here, before that fork in the road, right? Before the fork in the road is where the awareness happens. Because now you have the trigger, instead of going down that way, the default behavior, you have the awareness and thinking, okay, I'm stressed at this moment. I can go on to either do exactly what I've been doing for many years that hasn't been serving me, whether it's anger or whether it's whatever it is, or I can choose something different. So now when you start choosing something different, instead of going left to the default, now you're making better choices. I'm going to go right. I'm not going to pick up that cigarette. I'm not going to shout at my partner. I'm not going to, kick this table. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat that piece of cake to sabotage myself. Whatever it is. So it's before the fork in the road is where awareness happens. And that is your power to be able to choose differently. Now, the more you choose something that serves you, this neural pathway of the default behavior that's not serving you starts to dwindle away. And you're starting to build better, stronger neural pathways towards a much better choice and behavior. So the answer to your question is talking about tips and tricks. It's mindfulness. It's about being aware that as soon as a trigger happens, and how do you then build up this awareness? Well, the most common thing is meditation. The most common, things is like when you're eating a meal, be present with your meal. Every bite of the meal, instead of like, eating something and, flicking through your phone and eating, you're not even present. Or working and you're multitasking. It's like, be wherever you are, be there. 110% be there. Be present. Because when we're not present, we're knocked out of alignment. We're either in the past or in the future. Be right here, right now, because that's where the power is. The mind, particularly our ego, doesn't like the now. The mind needs to know. It needs to know where we're going or where we've been, and we it needs to know. Otherwise, it dissolves when you're actually in the now, in the present moment, where the only time that exists, where creation begins and ends, and begins and ends. That's all been in the now. And in the now is when now you're able to tap into that divine intelligence, intuition. All of these things comes from that place of the present moment and the unknown. Having to think, okay, I've got all my questions here, and I've got all of this, and I've got these tools, and like, I'm coming to you, and I'm talking to you, and then I just want to talk to you. No, I want to direct the whole conversation. It's like I'm controlling this either from fear that, I want to be a good coach or whatever it is, instead of like, surrender. and be here absolutely now, connected to you, and just listen to you in what you have to tell me. Because in the moment, whatever needs to be known will be known, whatever needs to be said will be said, because it would just surface like that if you can be in the now, in the unknown, in the present moment.
Thank you for that wonderful information and tips and tricks, Donni. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is, we know for everyone who has been consistently productive, there comes a very powerful morning routine, right? So as a coach, and to keep yourself in momentum, whatever life circumstances would be, how do you master your morning routine? So how's your morning routine look like? Share with us.
I call this my morning activation.
I like that.
This is where you consciously create yourself so you can move through the day from an elevated state. Yeah. Now, how many people, as soon as they wake up, what do they do? What's the first thing they do, Cindy?
Well, this is just what I know. Where's my phone? So yeah, picking the phone. What time is
exactly. If you're checking your phone as soon as you wake up, you plug yourself straight into the matrix instantly. Right? You end up forcing your brain to skip the important theta and alpha stages, priming you for distraction. Now you understand the brain has these different wavelengths. So beta, we're in beta at the moment. This is active mind, right? Busy mind, active mind. And then the one below that is alpha, which is more reflective and a restful state. Then you go to theta, which is drowsiness. And then you go into delta, which is sleep and dreaming stage, right? So when you go to bed tonight, you're going to be going through from beta to alpha to theta to delta. As soon as you wake up, you go the other way around. Delta, theta, alpha, and to beta, right? As soon as you pick up your phone, you're already going into the busy active mind. You're missing out on the theta and the alpha stages, right? Now, why is that important? Because now when we look at reprogramming the subconscious mind, the way to reprogram the subconscious mind is when you're in the theta stage. Because in the theta stage, your conscious brain, which is the gatekeeper, is not as strong then. It's still, sleepy, right? So now you have direct access into your subconscious brain. So this is now where you can create your affirmations. You can create your, well, some people call gratitude. I call it appreciation. It doesn't matter, right? So what I normally do is as soon as I wake up in the morning, I would go through a couple of affirmations that I have, and then I would go and do my I am declaration, which takes about around 10 minutes just for the I am declaration itself, right? And then I go on to my appreciation for what happened yesterday, every single thing, every person that I spoke to, the meals that I had, the people that I spoke to, whatever it is. And then going through my appreciation for today. Who am I going to speak to? Who am I going to be coaching with? I thank that all ahead of time, right? And then I set my intention to say, Source, who do I need to serve today? Guide me and lead me to whoever you need me to serve. And that could be any intentions that you have. That's just mine, right? And it can change too, my intentions. But these are very important to do in that important stage of theta and going into alpha, right? Because that's now where you're programming yourself subconsciously. If you skip that, you already get up and you do your thing, coffee, this, that, the other, phone, you're missing out on that part.
I always say that to people when they ask me which we're going to cover that in a while, that what makes me so positive in life is that, I mean, come on, the moment you wake up, that's also already a blessing, right? So, and for us to be really have this productivity in a day, create that meditation, affirmation, appreciation,
journaling.
Journaling. There you go. So take that in mind.
This is when you're in the flow. You can be in the flow in this time, and really just you're writing, in your journal, and that's a great time in the morning as soon as you wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I love it. I love doing that, and you have a space for yourself to start with, and it's very important. We tend to forget that we always have to have a space within us to start with. So we serve ourselves first. And then when we feel like we have to thank ourselves for whatever that we are grateful for, whatever that is, and we feel already full. And now we are ready to serve slowly within that day. Am I right, Coach Donni? I'm in a position to call you doctor for some reason. I'm like, what?
No, you don't have to.
So now, moving to my favorite, do you have anything to add on that before we proceed to the next question?
So much more, but so much, we don't have enough time.
Well, we're going to cover that for the next episode for another conversation. So I would love to know and hear what makes or how Coach Donni keeps himself optimistic.
Optimism is about having faith that everything will unfold how it should be, and surrendering everything, your control, because you don't have control. All you can do is what you can do. The results will unfold itself. You don't have any control about the results. All you can do is do what you have control with. And the first thing I'd like to say there is that, one, strengthen your awareness. Because
powerful.
when you start to come into the thinking mind and start to attach to those thoughts and really start thinking about it, you need to have that awareness to just let it go. And just come back to the present moment. In the present moment, you are free. You are free. And all you have to do in that present moment is ask yourself, what options are in front of me? And whatever options present itself, which one would I love to do? And then go on to create. So rather than being reactive, be creative.
Creative. Yeah.
Create yourself instead of reacting to the external world. Create. Because optimism is like, okay, I'm optimistic about something, but I've actually am the creator of my life. So I have a hand in being able to create this for myself. And yes, I can only take it as far, but all I know is that whatever I've done, now I can just step back and say, okay, I'm allowing the magic of the mystery and the unknown to unfold and allow for whatever happens.
Amazing. Well, I think bottom line is that we cover that many times, and I know it takes practice to really have that self-awareness really strong. And but yeah, I think once you give yourself a place, a space and time to really reflect and slowly for other people that unable to find optimism in a daily basis, as what you said, we are the creator of our lives. So once we practice that slowly but surely of getting to know ourselves better, I think the more we do that, the more we have control with what we really want to have in life or who we really want to be in life. I truly believe that with our discussion right now, with our conversation right now, especially the journey or story that you have shared earlier, there's so many people feel resonated on that, and they would like to know more of the practices or the approach of Coach Donni. So can you share with us, for the rest of the people out there who would like to connect with you, perhaps you have this session where they can get to know you more, your session, whatever, in coaching service, where they can reach out?
So you can find me on Facebook, Donni Satu, DONNI SATU.
Mm-hmm.
The same as Instagram, Donni Satu. The same as LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Donni Satu.
I love it. Donni Satu. It's so easy to remember. And yeah, so for everyone out there would like to get to know, connect with Coach Donni Satu. So that's once again Donni Satu. Of course, I'm going to add that in my blog anyway. And before we end this episode, so I would love to ask you my last and final question. This is like the powerful finale question. You are in a cafe and someone bumped into you and knows you, like, hey, I know you, you're a coach. Listen, I've been feeling lost or out of motivation lately. And I just need, I don't know, inspiration or motivation, but I just need to take action. I don't want to be in this position right now, what I'm feeling. And that moment with that person, what would you like, or what can you share with them as powerful message to inspire that person or change the thought of that person and really like take action or make a change?
Being is the seed of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And doing is the fruit of being.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're coming up to me and you're having all of these problems, and I said, who are you being? Well, I'm being unmotivated, or being cynical, or being resistant, or being unfocused. Well, that's showing up in the world as that being. That's what you're going to get. So I'll give you an example. Cindy, let's say I'll give you some apple seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You go and plant them. You dig a hole, you fertilize the ground, you plant the seeds, you water it, you look after it. Eventually, what are you going to get?
Oh, obviously, you're going to get the fruit.
Well, you're going to get an apple tree, right?
Yes.
Or at least a plant to begin with.
Yes.
If I give you a pair of seeds and you do the same thing, you cultivate the ground, you plant it, water it and look after it, sooner or later, what are you going to get?
The pear tree and the fruit itself.
A pear tree, right?
Yeah.
If you're planting the seed of somebody that's unmotivated, what are you going to get?
Unmotivated person.
Right. and unmotivated actions or non-actions. Yes. If you're planting the seed of being unfocused, well, your mind is going to be everywhere, right? Because that's who you are being. And who you are being is a seed. And from that seed then comes all of this. But if you could be a person that's being motivated or being optimistic, being non-resistant and being focused, so now you're planting those seeds and showing up in the world as this being, all the doing will come from that motivation, that optimism, that focus. So who are you being in these moments? If this person asks me, who are you being in these moments? Well, I'm being all of this. Well, who would you rather be? Then just come from that place of being.
Amazing. There you go, everyone. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Donni. Who you are being. I love it. I love it. So everyone, if you find this episode very useful and valuable, don't forget to share it over to a lot of people that will find it benefiting as well. And the more you share, the more that our website will grow organically. And don't forget to, of course, if you would like to connect and get to know our coach, Donni Satu, once again, that's Donni Satu. Same thing with Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So thank you so much. And remember, for everyone out there that feeling lost or whatever, remember what Donni said. Who are you being? That's what you exactly attract. So don't forget to take action little by little, because that little by little is still a progress, and that will bring over to who you are becoming. So thank you so much for sticking with us for this episode, and we'll see you next time.
I want to acknowledge you for the wonderful job that you're doing, and I know that you've created this video podcast, and I want to say I acknowledge you for the wonderful job that you're doing and for showing up every week and doing this and bringing together some thought leaders. I've seen some of your videos, and
thank you.
I want to say I appreciate you.
Thank
and
you.
I want to say that I love you.
Love you too. Thank you, Donni.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy that interview, and I hope you find it inspiring and motivating. Remember, stay optimistic and keep taking action slowly but surely for your big dreams. Thank you once again, and I'll see you on the next episode here at Empower Your Life.